One, go. All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Stretch, and joining me, as always, is the Saved One. We're going to be casting more Scouting Grounds games for you guys today. Want to get these all knocked out and finished up. We have busy lives, and also we want to get these on YouTube so people can enjoy them. But Saved, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing pretty well. I actually moved locations to a studio inside of my school because the guys were a little bit loud last night, but it's actually really nice in here. I like it. It's all cozy, and we get to cast some League of Legends, so I'm always happy. So
All right, so getting into these matches straight away, two teams that we've already seen. I think we've seen all four of the Scouting Grounds teams at this point. Today we're going to be starting off the cast with Infernal versus Cloud, and let's get straight into these bans because these guys are moving pretty quickly here. Ban phase number 1 for Infernal, Tarek, Azir, and Karma taken off the board, so they're really trying to limit that bot lane and mid lane pool.
Yeah, like we were saying yesterday, Ornn and Callista are usually the bans over on the red side, just because they're such good first pick champions. But then looking over at Terra Karma and Azir, they're really good at following up to that first pick. So Azir, you can really play him into any matchup because he has a lot of engage, he has a lot of poke, and a lot of sustain in lane. So you don't want to face against him. Karma and Terra are kind of the same, but for these support role. They're really good at following up to the first pick, but it looks like Tristana is the first pick, and it's really good that she is, just because she's really an all-around ADC. You can reset once you get into the fights, and you can dish out a lot of damage in the lane, even in team fights as well. And then your tower taking potential in the early game is absolutely crazy. So if you really wanted to, you could take that early tower in the early game and then rotate the Tristana into like maybe even the mid lane to bully out that mid laner, since she has, again, the lane bully potential. But yeah, we have more picks over on Team Cloud.
Yeah, and it's interesting to actually see the progression of this draft so far, because look at the bans that we have here. Xayah and Rakan are left wide open for Team Cloud, and they actually don't opt to go for it. So they're really putting a lot of value on limiting the jungle pool of Spica and trying to make sure that they get something strong out of the jungle. Their picks are going to be Sejuani and Varus to start off their draft.
And the reason for that is just because, or the reason why they really didn't want to choose the Zion Rakan here is because there's other priorities up. The Sejuani was up, so you would want to take that. And if you took the Xayah instead of the, or if you took the Zion Rakan instead of the Sejuani, then there would have been that opportunity for the other team to respond with the Xayah or with the Rakan pick of their own. So you wouldn't want to get yourself into that type of situation. So they want to secure a really nice ADC right now, who kind of he provides that utility in the team fights as well as some damage. And then same thing for the jungle. She provides utility and as well as some engage potential. So you would really want to respond to the Tristana first pick with that. Well, yeah, in the first game, we saw Team Infernal. He didn't really play too well. I believe it was on the Jarvan. He wanted to switch it up a little bit, go for a little bit more of a mid to late game centric style champion, and with also a little bit of early game. And it really worked well for him. He started to get the ganks off in the other game that he needed to. He started to scale into the mid game and start to land those explosive casks on the priority targets, and he really started to perform. Then you also see T-Sum, and he tried to play, I believe it was the Rakan yesterday. He didn't really do too well on it, so they didn't want to go for the Zion Rakan in this draft. We might see a next game, but then he opted to go for the Zyra in game number 2, and he really did perform on it like we saw yesterday. In this game, he will be playing the Lulu, so that means he wants to try and diversify his champion pool and show the coaches that he can really play everything all across the board. He can play a little bit of an AP damage champion like Rakan. He could play the full-out damage support like Zyra, but then you can also play utility like Lulu.
And let's talk about Piecake Lord a little bit. We saw him doing a lot of split pushing last game or last cast. Yeah. A lot of side lane pressure being put down by this guy, and the likes of Team Cloud are responding to it. They're definitely noticing that he's got that impact and that pressure, and as a result, they're picking up the Shen and going that extra step of limiting his pool as well with these bans of Jace and Gnar to try to pigeonhole him into that Fiora pick that they saw last time. Real smart drafting here coming out of Team Cloud. And we'll see how Infernal responds to it. In terms of the bans coming out from Team Infernal, they're going to try to limit that the pool of Linsanity. We've seen him have questionable matches on the rise in the mid lane, and as a result, they're taking away playmakers like LeBlanc to try to put him back on that rise yet again and capitalize on some of those serious mistakes.
Exactly. He is a good player, Linsanity. He just had a couple of rough starts yesterday. I think he's really going to try and pick it up in this game and just today in general. He also gets the counter pick in the mid lane, so you can counter pick Orianna with really whatever you want. I think that he does want to go the Rise, but he has other options here. He can go for the Syndra. I think Corki maybe, but he didn't really do too well, Corki versus Orianna yesterday. The Talia is still available. We still have to remember that. I'm still trying to think of season 7 champions just because I'm so used to season 8. But then you were talking about Piecake Lord and how he is really that damage centric top laner, and you can really see it in these picks. They have a support in the jungle and in the so obviously the support role. You look at Orianna and you kind of think, all right, she's a supportive and offensive style mid laner. So it's really, this whole entire comp is really centered around Noah Most and Piecake Lord. I really want to see though if Noah Most and Julian can actually step up their game today, because what we saw yesterday was them, or both of them, they really were playing passive in some of those team fights, and I want to see if they can actually pop off, and I think that they can. A little bit of jitters yesterday, so hopefully they can recover from that.
Yeah, what I'm noticing already on Team Infernal is that they've got a more a team comp that, like you said, centers a little bit more about Piecake Lord regrouping with the team and actually contributing to these team fights. One of the things that I was noticing last time we were casting is that Piecake Lord was almost forced into these side lanes, because if he did try to enter in against the heavy front line of all of the opponents that they faced against last time, I think it was Team Ocean, they was going to just get absolutely CC'd to death and blown up. Here, with the shields and the extra health out of Lulu and Orianna, he can definitely survive the initial jump in and have a big impact if he chooses to group with the team. So we'll see how Infernal chooses to play this one out, but so far we've got a lot of key picks to look out for in this match, and I hope we see a really good one.
Yeah, you're talking about Piecake Lord, and I want to add on to that because the main problem I saw with the Fiora pick is that it didn't allow him to be almost kind of a split pusher and a team fighter. The thing with the Camille, though, is it allowed him to do both. So you saw him a lot split pushing in one of the side lanes, and he got the inhibitor successfully. But then if his team needed him, then he was there for that pressure. He got into the fight, and then he got, I believe it was like a triple kill at one point. There was a fight around the dragon, and he really did pop off. So I think that if given the opportunities, he can. We just have to see in this game if he can do that. And I think with this team comp, he can do that as well. We also haven't talked about Team Cloud too much, but looking at their comp overall, it's very, very diverse. It honestly looks like the main damage targets, or the main damage carries, are going to be Linsanity on the Malzahar and Ashe playing the Varus. And the thing is, when you think of Varus as a full damage champion, you really don't think that unless he gets really, really fed in the early game. Right. So I want to see if these guys are going to have enough damage going towards the later parts of the game, because right now they're really relying on Linsanity.
Linsanity played the Malzahar in our first cast as well, to great effect. A lot of CC available to lock in the incoming divers of the enemy team, and it's going to be pretty key for him to actually get that Nether Grasp down on Piecake Lord if he tries to move in for that backline. Otherwise, it's going to be a lot of Nether Grasp being thrown down onto Spice's Gragas. But we've got a couple of pauses here, which actually gives us a little bit of time to introduce both of these teams. If you guys are just joining us for the first time, welcome. I appreciate you guys showing up, but let's do a little bit of intro here for these guys. So starting off on the blue side is Team Infernal. Top lane, Piecake Lord. Jungle, played by Spica. Mid lane's going to be Julian. AD carrier is Noah Most, and then down in the support role is T-Sum.
Yeah, and over on the red side, we have Team Cloud. We have League in the top lane, Fnatic in the jungle, and Sandy in the mid lane, Ashe in the ADC role, and Iron Pirate on support.
Yeah, Iron Pirate, someone we saw play a beautiful set of Janna games in yesterday's cast, but I want to see how he does on this Braum. I don't think that we've seen him on it just yet, and it's going to be interesting to see how that actually fits into the composition here, considering that there's just a lot of AoE damage that's being thrown around with the Orianna, with the Gragas ultimate as well. It's going to be a lot of things that he can't really do as well to block. I mean, I think he can get in front of Orianna ball and stop the progression forward. But other than that, it's going to be a lot of damage that's occurring regardless. So it's going to be up to him to try to have a dominant mid-game phase and try to catch people out using that concussive blows passive, and just try to make sure that he can lock people up in the mid game. It's going to be a hard early game for these guys because there's a lot of wave pressure and poke that comes out of both a Lulu and a Tristana composition down there in the bottom lane.
You're right, but if given the opportunity, I think that if Braum does land a Q or even an auto attack, I think that Varus can follow up to that very well. He can use his slow.
Yeah, right here, T-Sum caught out in a little bit of a risky situation, forced to burn that flash immediately. The Q out of Braum just going a little bit wide, and here it is. The deep invade coming out of Team Cloud, trying to get some deep vision. That ward did not act as they intended, I don't think. I think they wanted to try to get it into the middle of that red buff, but once again, a little bit of nerves here in the scouting ground. So there's a lot of eyes on these players in terms of, you know, some big names and some big teams. So these guys might be feeling a little bit nervous. Regardless, they do get the vision that they are looking for, and they start, once again, back on this blue side start, making sure that they get that hard leash for Fnatic.
Yeah, it's honestly looking like Gragas is going to start the Raptor camp. And we do have to remember that if you do the 4 camps, or no, the 5 camps, oh no, never mind. He's not going to do that. Maybe? No, he's not. Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it.
I thought he was going to do the 5 camps and then get the easy level 4, but he wants that extra leash from his bot lane. But it's honestly looking like he's very confident just doing the red buff, even though it's warded. He just wants to do it and then move on to the other side of the jungle. It's usually what happens, so there's really no risk in doing this. But then what this also does is it opens up an opportunity for Sejuani to go into the bot lane and maybe perform a level 2 gank. It's very, very possible, and even with a Braum with his early game damage and CC, they can pull off some crazy stuff, and it looks like it's going to happen right now.
Yeah, flash forward, looking for T-Sum here. They've got a little bit of CC, and he is going to get obliterated here. No hope for him. They're continuing damage down onto Noah Most. They trade a kill back because it looks like Iron Pyrite just wanted too much there. Stepped too far forward, took a turret shot for his troubles, and ended up going down.
Yeah, he burned his flash onto Lulu, which was really good, and all he really needed to do was apply the Q auto attack and then put his shield up, and then just play defensive. Or no, he didn't have a shield. Never mind.
Right,
all he had to do was he had to just flash in Q and then try and get out of there as best as possible with taking just very little damage. But he did see the concussive blows onto Tristana and wanted to proc it, just maybe see if they can get something. But once again, it's in the early game. Sometimes you're not really used to that type of play, and it's kind of risky. So I guess a good try by Iron, but you could have seen how you could have corrected that.
Definitely true here, but either way, it's going to be an even trade there down on the bottom side of the map. 200 gold bonus going over to the likes of Team Cloud due to the fact that it was first blood, but you can see the mindset of these players already. I think that was probably a call from Fnatic. Being a jungler, he probably wants to make sure he gets his lanes ahead in whatever way he possibly can, and what better way to do that than capitalize on that early summoner spell being blown from that aggressive invade on the bottom side. We see here Spisa just taking away the Raptor camp away from Fnatic, but over the wall, I think Linsanity was able to tag the big one and knock that one away. Getting himself just a little bit of gold here in the mid lane, but look at that CS count. It looks like Julian's doing a fantastic job of not only maintaining control of that lane, but taking advantage of the early pressure that Orianna does have.
And you can also see that Fnatic, he really wants to get around to these lanes and shut down the main carries, specifically in the bot lane and the top lane, just because in this game, no one most can really carry. We were talking about that in Champion Select, but then you also look in the top lane, Piecake Lord. He's also up there, and he's an absolute beast. But yesterday, we saw him at points go a little bit aggressive just like this, but not... It usually happened in the middle part of the lane, so this is exactly what Fnatic is waiting for. We're waiting for Piecake Lord just to go in for that aggressive E, and then once that happens, then something like this can happen.
Yep, stun almost connects there. Maybe a little bit of delay there to try to interrupt the wall jump would have made that a more successful gank, but either way, Piecake Lord able to just repel to the wall and get out of there, so... Safe disengage there for the top laner of Team Infernal, and once again, really showing that ganking mindset that you were talking about. Fnatic with a fantastic lane gank.
And why this is so good is just because we saw that Pyke Lord was shoving up in the lane and he wanted to go a little bit more aggressive. But what this gank does is it applies a little bit of damage onto Pyke Lord, and now he's forced to stay underneath the tower. He has to farm, and it's opening up for a gank here.
Ooh, good interrupt there on the repel once again. Oh, it looks like Pyke Lord might be forced to flash away, able to get a little bit of healing there on the tactical sweep. Flash away from the Shen back into turret range is not going to be enough, as League is able to get one more kill with the swipe of his sword.
That was a very clean gank by Fnatic there. He went into the lane, he applied a little bit of damage, and then off of that, League was able to aggress just a little bit more, apply a couple of more auto attacks, and then that allowed Fnatic just to come in, apply a little bit of damage, get the stun off, and then Pyke Lord was forced to flash, but League was really, really good at following up to the flash with a flash of his own.
Fantastic gank once again coming out of Fnatic up in the top lane. During this entire time, though, Spica has been in the jungle of Fnatic, taking away whatever resources he can, and it shows in the last hit count. 9 farm up means that he's probably gotten himself two or three camps away from the likes of Fnatic, but that's not enough to swing this gold lead that is being generated. Actually, now that I think about it, looking at the gold count, it might be that 1 kill advantage is not that large, and he's doing a fantastic job of getting ahead in terms of his experience. So he's going to be level 6 first and might be able to get a bit of pressure out of the enemy jungle.
Yeah, the only way that this is actually worth for Shen is if he does something with this 1 kill. If he can maybe get a little bit more tanky, a little bit even like more damage. He has the Tiamat, but then Camille can follow that up with a Sheena of her own, which just makes her that much closer to a thing of her own. Oh, mid lane.
Yeah, good ultimate coming out of Orianna to interrupt that Nether Grasp immediately, seeing the threat that was on its way. Top lane, Spica looking for a potential gank here. He's walking out very early, but he's got the support of 2 or 3 other members of Team Infernal. League is just stuck underneath this tower, trapped like a rat. The TP from Linsanity has to be canceled here, as he would fall down to the likes of 4 members of Infernal as well. And they're going to be looking for first turret here once again with an aggressive rotation to the top lane.
I believe we saw this yesterday coming out of Team Infernal, where they very, very early on, they rotate the bot lane to the top lane just to get that tower, and then they dive. So really, really nice communication, but Fnatic's may be looking for a play of his own, as well as Ashe.
Yeah, flash forward from Iron Pyrite, looking for the stun. Stun connects on from Fnatic, but he's got no more mana left to do pretty much anything. The turn here is coming out of Team Infernal. They've realized that the mana bars are too low to output any real damage, and they get the kill on Iron Pyrite, who's already burned his flash.
I believe they did this yesterday, or at least one of the teams did this, where they kited Team Cloud, and Team Cloud just went way too aggressive, and it just wasn't good for them whatsoever. So we're really seeing, I guess, the same mistakes occur today that we saw yesterday. But really, really nice play from Team Infernal. Overall, they just went top lane, they got a tower, and they got a kill for their troubles. Now they're going to go back to base, maybe get some more of their core items in the early game, and off of this, they can really, really play to these lanes. We see that bot lane is a huge priority right now because the Infernal Dragon is down there. Both of these teams really, really want it, but I think that right now Team Infernal is in more of a spot to take it.
About 8.5 minutes into the game here, we are 1.8k gold lead here for Team Infernal, thanks to some aggressive play and that first turret gold coming out on that top side of the map. Earlier, some red side pings had gone down on that Infernal Drake, but it's Team Infernal who's already moving in for the kill to try to get that early Drake advantage, really wanting to get that damage under their belt, especially with the top laner like Pyke Lord, who wants to have as much damage as possible on that Camille.
And you can see that there maybe could start a fight here. Oh, it was the Varus ultimate just missed, but 2 people are trapped in the pit, but they both have escaped, so they're going to get out of there with safety.
Pretty much jumps over the wall simultaneously. There's Noah Most and Spica disengage from that dragon pit. No hard committal after the chains of corruption are thrown down and go wide from Ashe. So going to be an interesting game to see how this plays out from here on out. Pretty large lead here, or a pretty well-played lead here for Team Infernal. You see Fnatic in the bot lane brush, looking to see if he can find an engage. No summoner spells available for T-Sum, so I have to imagine that that's the target from them yet again. But with no chains of corruption, they're waiting for a step forward. Do they have the burst to actually take out Noah Most? They don't quite have it just yet. No level 6 on T-Sum as well, so they're not going to quite find anything under the turret. in terms of dive potential, but as time goes on, it becomes more and more safe for Team Infernal, having that Lulu just now hit level 6.
Yeah, and this is really good pressure coming out from Team Cloud just to get this tower here in this bot lane. It's a really big priority that they try and trade towers from that top lane mini fight that we saw. But it was a really nice attempt coming out of Iron Pyrite, because what we saw there was he tried to shoot his Q, but then it hit a minion. So that was I think one of the main reasons why Nomos didn't die there as well. He had the Lulu, the Wild Growth was available. He still had his heal and his flash. So if needed, he had those summoners, but it's really, really nice that he just didn't have to use them overall. But right now, this gives Team Cloud the opportunity to move Varus into these other lanes, specifically, I believe, in the top lane, because Pie Lord, if you leave him alone for a little bit too long, then some real dangerous things are going to happen already. That tier 1 tower went down, but he's already starting to take over the red side jungle. So it's really, really not looking good for Team Cloud right now, just because of the amount of rotations that this team is putting out.
Definitely true. Another grasp thrown down immediately onto Spice. He's got the disengage, though, just body slamming his way backward. It looks like the immediate chains of corruption and flash onto Julian. Ash still throwing down arrow after arrow, trying to find himself a kill, but the command, attack, and dissonance out of Julian just dissuades him and says, no, you're not going to get this kill right now. Get out of my face.
I also like what they're doing with Noah Most right now, because they send 3 people into the mid lane. It's 2 supports and then a carry out of Orianna. But then you take the Tristana, who is the carry, but right now doesn't have all of her core items that she needs in order to group with her team. They put her into the bot lane just to push that wave out, and then once they're done in the mid lane, they can move the 2 supports, the Lulu and the Gragas, into the bot lane, where they can really put some pressure down on this tower, and it's forcing Team Cloud to move down to the bot lane. TP from Linsanity.
Yeah, TP from Linsanity, looking to see if he can find anything down here. Silence does connect down onto Spica, but it looks like the goal here is to just protect this turret for as long as possible and delay the team goal that Infernal is looking for. That turret take in the bottom side from Team Cloud did close up that gold gap for a brief moment, but once again, it's expanded and gone into the favor of Team Infernal, now extending up to 2K gold at the 12-minute mark. So Team Infernal definitely in the driver's seat here for this match.
Yeah, and you can see it just in their map rotations and in their play. They're basically, I like to call it playing puppet with the enemy, where you're basically forcing the enemy to go wherever you're going, and they're doing that right here in this game. They're basically rotating between these lanes, and Team Cloud is forced to go wherever they're going. Shen is forced to go into the top lane to face off against Camille. You see that Ashe and Braum and even Linsanity are forced to go into the mid lane or even into the bot lane to match what Team Infernal is doing, or else Team Infernal is just going to take over the game completely. There is that possibility that Team Cloud can come back here in this game, but I think one of the main problems is that they're just lacking damage. Linsanity is not putting out enough damage on his TPs. You saw it right there, where he didn't have, I guess, enough mana to really even do anything in order to get something there in the bot lane. It was enough to stop them, but how long is that really going to last? Because Noah Most is down here facing off against Shen, and Shen has to back off. He also might be getting ganked in the middle of the lane.
Very true here. The rest of Team Infernal collapsing down on this bottom side. This does open up a window where Team Cloud could go for a Rift Herald take on the top side of the map, but with the amount of speed that Tristana does take these structures away, they have to be careful not to waste too much time on that upper side, because as you're seeing right here, a quarter of that turret's health disappearing on just one minion wave, and that's even without just full committal from the Tristana. So a lot of turret taking potential for Team Infernal here. They've got to be careful that if they do want to respond to these pressure plays from Infernal, Team Cloud's got to be very swift on how they move.
Yeah, they really just have to stay back, not be as aggressive as they were yesterday, because we were seeing at some points when they were behind, they didn't know how to play from behind, but it's looking like Infernal might go for something here. They see a blue buff, so it's a little bit of an objective, but Team Cloud is, they really want this blue buff as well.
Very true here. Once again, Team Cloud trying to kite it back towards them. A little bit of a knockback from the Sejuani W. It's going to be the smite out of, I think, Spica to pick that one up and get that blue buff in the hands of Team Infernal. They've moved Piecake Lord down to the bottom side of the map as well. TP available. Shen, no TP, but does have his ultimate, so if there was a fight anywhere on the map, he would be able to join fairly quickly here. So once again, we're going to be seeing that side lane pressure game out of Team Infernal, really playing around Piecake Lord's carry top lane style.
Yeah, and the reason why they want to bring Pie Lord into the bot lane is so that they can create some sort of pressure for the Dragon. It's allowing him to back and actually go right into the top lane so that he can match the various split push pressure. And he also has his TP available as well. You see a couple of wards around that Dragon that are from the blue side. So Pie Lord definitely doing exactly what he needs to do. Goes into the bot lane, shoves it out so that it forces a couple of members or even just the Shen into the bot lane, just so that he can then rotate into the top lane, maybe get something for himself by defending this tower. But another pause. That's all right, though. But looking at the map movements right now, we see that Orianna, Tristana, Gragas, and Lulu are going towards this dragon. They really need it, and it's in just a couple of seconds. What this then means for this team is they can get a little bit of extra gold just by covering this area as well. It provides that map pressure. I think after this, they're really going to look towards that Rift Herald, because it's towards that 15-minute mark where you really want to start to crack down those tier 2 towers.
Yep, sending these 3 members just to take this bottom objective away while actually moving their Orianna and their Camille up to this top side of the map. Pie Lord and Julian being the 2 to try to clear out this minion wave. Look at that big damage that Pie able to throw down on Ashe almost immediately. Off in the jungle, though, there's a fight happening. Good Sejuani ultimate over the wall. Oh my goodness! The shockwave actually prevents Shen from getting over the Gromp wall there. Pie Lord tries to go back in a little bit deeper for some additional damage, but gets locked down immediately by the Nether Grasp of Linsanity. One for one trade on that top side of the map. Julian, the one to walk away with his life on Team Infernal, but they do prevent a large amount of continuing push into that top lane inner turret.
Yeah, and even though they did get a tower on the top lane, it's really nice for them to get that extra gold. But I don't think it's going to be enough, because it was a 1-for-1 at the top lane, which is really good for Pie Lord, because now he gets to start to scale and get his main core items, which is the Trinity Force, and he already has the Tiamat, so it's really nice for him. So this provides extra damage in the 1v1s, which he was already doing a lot of damage to Varus from what we just saw there. But then No Most and Lulu, as well as Gragas, go into the mid lane. They get that tier 2 tower. It's exactly what they need. So a tier 1 tower for a tier 2 mid lane, I don't think it's that worth for Team Cloud. Even though it is a little bit of gold for them, it's still not overall worth.
Definitely true here. 16 minutes into the game, and we've got roughly 2.5K gold lead, something like that, for Team Infernal here. Once again, a lot of turret pressure being thrown down by these guys. 4 turrets to 2 for the likes of the Infernal squad. Due to a lot of these rotations around the map, still though, the Rift Herald stands strong inside of that Baron pit on the top side, and no one has really made a play for it just yet. Could that be the window for Cloud to get back into the game in terms of this turret pressure? We'll find out in a few minutes here as these guys try to put some pressure on the mid lane.
Yeah, it looks like Team Cloud wants to go for an aggressive play into the mid lane. They are in the position to do it, but then we also see that different members of the blue team are also going into the mid lane. Oh, that's a really nice ultimate.
Yeah, fantastic ultimate once again out of Julian, who's playing a little bit more aggressive than we saw him play in these earlier matches. It looks like he's got something to prove here today, and because of that, he's got a lot more initiative. It's putting the other team on edge because they no longer have the ability to kind of be comfortable and sit here. Q actually not connecting there from Iron Pyrite. That could be the thing that actually allows for Noah Most to get away. Flash burn on both Noah and Ashe to get out of that fight. T-Sum swooping in at the last second there just to make sure he stays alive. Bottom side of the map, the Linsanity roam on Malzahar to take out the side lane split push, and this is a huge play coming out of Team Cloud. Silence thrown down on Noah Most so he cannot get out of the pit here, and it's going to be a cross-map play out of Team Cloud to get this Rift Herald taken away from Infernal, who thought they had the pressure on the bottom side.
And I was waiting for this type of opportunity to come up where Team Cloud finally goes in and they try and do something aggressive and it becomes successful. Now is the main moment where they did that, and it looks really, really good. So they did a very aggressive play into the bot lane because they knew that Pie Lord was that type of aggressive player, and they needed to take him out as fast as possible, so they did that. But then the League, he played Shen very, very aggressively, where he got a kill in the bot lane, TP towards the top side of the map where they prevented Team Infernal from taking that Rift Herald, and they just stopped a really, really nice snowball play from happening. Now that 2.5K lead is shortened down to about 1K, and it's really, really nice to see Team Cloud do something like this, and it's honestly looking really good for them if they can play each of these fights correctly. All of their ultimates are up for this next, or when the next fight happens, and I really want to see if they can do this successfully.
Fantastic coast-to-coast play, like you said, coming out of Team Cloud here, and having that Rift Herald means that not only do they get to close that gold gap initially, but it stands to reason that they have a lot more potential to grab a lot more gold as well. The Rift Herald, fantastic for taking away some of these outer turrets that they're still working on, like the mid lane, bottom side of the map, Nethergrass thrown down immediately. Once again, they're going to continue punishing Piecake Lord in this side lane as much as they possibly can, but so is Team Infernal. It looks like Ash is stunned up here. He does have the Shen ultimate off of him, but he gets knocked down immediately. Good taunt flash on a Noah Most to pick up that kill from League, but still, it's a 2-for-2 trade across the board.
That was really, really nicely played by all of these members here in this game. They did exactly what what these teams have been failing to do onto Piecake Lord. Is they weren't punishing his split push pressure, but now in this game, Team Cloud's doing it.
Lock up onto Spica there. He's able to belly slam his way out of there. There's no ultimate available for his Julian to really react to that clustering that was going on, but there is enough pressure to get his boy out of there. Recalls being channeled for the likes of Team Infernal. They're just going to reset and regroup.
Yeah, so overall, really, really nice map play by both of these teams. It honestly looked like League tried to do the exact same thing as he did in the last fight, but it wasn't too successful just because Noah Mosi got a lot of peel in that fight. So he was able to finally get a couple of kills. So now trading 2-for-2 at the end of that fight, like you were saying. Overall, really, really nice skirmish. But we're looking at the next main objectives that are up. Baron's up. Usually, I don't think they're going to take it, but Piecake Lord, once again, he's getting punished.
Yeah, again, down in the bottom side. Nethergrass just thrown down. He's got to get a QSS. He's got the Null Magic Mantle in his inventory, but he turns it into some Merc Tread. That's not going to stop this bot lane pressure from killing him over and over. TP being channeled now from the bottom side of the map. It looks like it's League coming into this top side. They stop the Baron take as well. This is now Team Infernal on the back foot. The pressure has completely shifted into the hands of Team Clouds thanks to some fantastic side lane responses out of Linsanity and League. They're doing a fantastic job of corralling this Camille and putting her down.
I honestly don't think it's about the QSS, because even if you had a QSS, you can't get away from 3 people. There is a little bit of a possibility that you could because of how mobile Camille is, but I think honestly what she needs to do is just time her split pushes, because in every single one of these games, she's been able to do something like this where she goes into a side lane and just does it basically whatever she wants. She can push up to the tier 2, no one's going to stop her. Even if someone or one person does stop her, then she can basically get out with ease. But when it gets to the point where you're putting 3 of your members into the bot lane and you still can't do anything on the top side of the map, you really just have to be careful, get your vision down, allow yourself to just time your split pushes, which she really does need to do here. I want to see if she can maybe fix these mistakes, or if she's just going to keep going aggressive and just keep putting that pressure down to the bot lane.
Very true here. A lot of the art of split pushing comes in with patience. If you don't have that vision you were talking about, sometimes you've just got to sit there in a brush and like start walking back towards your base just to stay safe. You got to wait until your team's got some pressure to pull people out. Ultimate from Sejuani, though, out of Fnatic, connects onto Spica here in the blue side jungle, top side. Looks like they're trying to get the kill onto this Gragas. He knocks them away. Actually, it was the Buster shot out of Noah Most. He still gets picked up. Good damage out of Julian, but it looks like this fight's getting more and more split up. Look at the damage out of Ash here. Explodes the likes of T-Sum, and now it looks like Team Cloud moving towards that Baron buff. Julian doing what he can with the command attack and dissonance to try to chunk out Iron Pyrite. He's still in the area. He might be able to dissuade this, but it's 4 people to 1. Look at the health bar of Iron Pyrite as he's getting chunked down. They channel the Shen ultimate to try to get some pressure out of this side lane. They're going to try to see if they can't stop this take. Here comes, oh my goodness, Piecake Lord just goes in so deep here, but he sets up his AD carry. He might be able to leap in for some kills. The resets are available, but he just chooses to play it safe and actually not go for either of these 2 available kills.
Yeah, the opportunity was there, like you were saying, but this is the build exactly that I was looking for out of Varus. He needs to go for that full-on damage build, where if these fights go on for that period of time, he can really stack up his Guinsoo's Rage Blade. Then he can really start to do a lot of damage. But now you see Team Infernal capitalizing on Cloud's mistakes. 2 members are dead over on Team Cloud, and the rest of them just back to base. Linsanity TP to the top lane tower. He's got his flash in just a couple of seconds, but then you also see that Pycake Lord is here just for the counter.
Ooh, immediate Nethergrass down on the Pycake Lord. He's taken down to about a 3rd HP, but the shield comes up to actually keep him alive, just barely. Now it's going to be a battle of disengages. Noah Most gets corralled into the pit. He's actually got some good damage on the Iron Pirate. No, he starts channeling his recall, just saying, get me out of here. Somebody save me. But he's not going to be able to be saved. He probably could have escaped there if he had just gone for the Braum kill and looked for the reset, but instead he tries to play it cool and casual and gets punished for it.
I was going to say, right when he was inside of that pit and he got that 1 crit onto Braum, which brought Braum to very, very low HP, even though Braum had Face of the Mountain on top of him, I think that if Tristana jumped onto Braum, killed him like very, very quickly, just with auto attacks even, he could have flashed, or I don't even know if he had flashed in that fight, but he probably could have jumped out of there using the reset over that wall just because Linsanity also had flash, but I don't think he had enough damage to kill that Tristana. Honestly, it's very, very weird looking at that fight, but I think that definitely Tristana could have went 1-for-1 there, but she just wasn't confident enough.
Yep, not quite yet, but either way, it's going to be Team, Team Infernal who picked up that Baron buff. So they're going to have the advantage of that gold, but still, even with that Baron buff take, it is still a very close game here. 25 minutes into the match, and we're only looking at a 2K gold lead despite that Baron take on Team Infernal. So a lot of pressure once again in the hands of Team Cloud, and if they can keep finding these Sejuani engages and these Nethergrass down onto these key targets, they're going to be looking good going on into the rest of this match.
Yeah, and you see the amount of pressure that Cloud is now putting. They're taking the game a lot more slowly, but they're also just looking for these little opportunities where you can catch somebody in a side lane, where you really are just looking as a unit to see what you can do next objectively. And I really do like this style of play where they're taking a little bit of a step back, and they notice that the enemy team, Team Infernal, they have a buff available to them. So these waves are just going to be coming in, but with a lot more pressure on them. So if Team Cloud can just relax a little bit and then just look for those little opportunities, then they can really start to expand and just try and find their way, in a sense, back into this game, because right now it's looking very, very back and forth, but we're Infernal as well. They need to look for a very aggressive play. And Dragon's up in a minute, but I think in that time, you can do just a little bit more. You can shove out some of these lanes. You really get your vision down, but now you see Linsanity looking for another play onto Camille.
Yep, yet again, look at this sneaky Malzahar around the corner. I think Pycake Lord knows that something's building up. Over the wall, though, they throw down the Nethergrass pretty much immediately. Flash taunt down onto Pycake Lord to get that pretty much free kill and open up this Shen split push to a free push down in the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, now you see that Shen is going to, like you said, be applying a lot of pressure here in the bot lane, but you see on the other side of the map, Team Infernal, they want to go in the complete opposite direction because that tier 2 tower is on very low HP. But the thing is, Braum, Varus, Malzahar, and Sejuani are all up here, and I don't think at this point Team Infernal can really even risk diving or even fighting at this point, just because of how strong Team Cloud's team fight is. You have the Braum who can apply a lot of stuns and a lot of just prevention from a lot of damage from going onto their main carry. So I think that Team Cloud is in the perfect position right now to really try and carry this game, especially Ashe. Right now, he's got his main core items. He's looking for his third main item, and even the Mountain Dragon is up. I almost said Team Mountain, but the Mountain Dragon's up, and they need this dragon because I think in order to take some of these towers, our major objectives, they need that extra pressure.
Yeah, one of the things that you'll note on this Varus build that Ashe has chosen to go for, it's not very high AD. So when it comes to actually knocking turret downs, they need absolutely anything that they can get their hands on. So like you were saying, that Mountain Dragon is very key, very core for them when it comes to taking these objectives. Not only that, but it does enhance their side lane split push down to the bottom side of the map. They're gaining a kill. They're killing Pycake Lord. Okay, we saw it. We witnessed it. Pycake Lord once again was killed in classic fashion. Linsanity just stacking up that cooldown reduction and showing up as often as possible. It looks like Team Cloud's going to go for a 4v3 fight here. They've got to be very careful with this positioning on the back end, though. League gets a taunt down onto Spica. Can they lock him up for long enough? The auto attack negates doing work to keep this Shen alive, but it's not going to be enough. Linsanity walking in from the back of the fight, throws down Malefic Visions onto the likes of Noah Most. Can't quite find the damage that he's looking for, though. Fnatic so low. He's taken out by the attack of distance by Julian. Jump in from Noah Most, finally getting that aggression, but walks into the face of some space aids as he gets just taken down by Linsanity. This is an absolutely bonkers fight here, as it looked like Team Cloud was going for a disadvantageous fight. It looked like they just went too early before the rest of their squad could engage with them.
It was so weird, honestly, just because you saw the amount of the play that they were making. Infernal was just, it was very basic. It was very cookie cutter. They were shoving in the mid lane, and they were just gaining the inhibitor. That was their main objective. But then what you saw there was Cloud. Different members were coming in from different angles. League came in from the right side, Linsanity from the back, and then the 3 members were coming in from the front. But the thing is, Infernal, they stayed calm and collected as a team and as a unit. They kept their communication up, and they definitely positioned every single one of those members perfectly, almost in that fight. I think a little bit of position errors because a couple of members died, but I think those members died for a really, really good cause. So I think that overall, Infernal, they definitely came up in that fight, and they're definitely taking some of these fights. They now have basically a 4K lead at this point in the game, but Team Cloud, they're just so close. All they have to do is get their communication on board, and they can really start to show up in some of these fights. And if they don't, then it's going to be trouble for them.
Definitely true here, but despite that interesting play coming out of Team Cloud, Team Infernal netting that mid lane inhibitor means that they're going to have a point of pressure for the next couple of minutes. I think inhibitor respawn timers are like 6 minutes or something like that, but regardless, plenty of pressure out of that mid lane, which opens up, once again, the side lane pressure out of Piecake Lord. He can do some cross-map plays, but without his TP being available, it might be best for him to actually just group in with the rest of the squad. Sometimes I feel like maybe they should just try one fight where Piecake just leaps into the team with Lulu ulti and Orianna ulti and just kind of see what happens, man. That's how I feel about it. I'm not the best League of Legends player, but I feel like maybe...
just suicide.
Well, no, because like the shields and the HP should keep them alive. Right. But regardless, we'll see what they end up doing with this Camille pick. It looks like they're opting for another 4-1 split push play. This time completely cross map, so it's going to be a lot more travel time for Malzahar. But once again, Linsanity has that teleport available to him, so he's going to be able to regroup with his squad fairly easily here.
I think that how you play these Camille...
Over the wall! It looks like Fnatic's looking for the engage on the support. 2-man Shockwave. Ash takes a bit of damage, but that magic resistance keeping him nice and high. T-Sum getting locked up by the Nether Grasp now. They really want this kill. They commit so many cooldowns to it, but they finally find it. Over the wall goes Fnatic into Julian. Stun will connect here as taunt as well from Noah. League, who's come in on that Stand United. They pick up the kill onto Julian, and now it looks like Team Infernal's just completely on the back foot. They do leave Piecake Lord down in the bottom lane, but it's up to him to put down the hardest split push you've ever seen in your entire life to try to make this even slightly worth this trade. The Dragon, or the Baron, is going down fairly slowly here, but so are the health bars for Team Cloud. Over the wall goes Spica for the kill. He trades Baron for his life here, and now Noah Most is trying to regroup a little bit towards his teammate down on the bottom side. Piecake Lord nets himself 2 turrets and opens up that bot lane inhib, and with the Baron buff minion swooping in, it looks like it's going to be Team Infernal playing towards that bottom lane.
Yeah, you could really see the I loved how Spica got that, but then you also see on the other side of the map how Piecake Lord, he definitely used his utility and all of his damage. He's been doing this every single game where he gets at least 1 inhibitor, and it started to pay off here in this game where finally Spica, he goes in for a very, very nice play, steals the Baron, and then now Team Infernal, they have an extra buff on their hands. So right now, they're really looking towards Piecake Lord if he can really just apply that split push pressure and start to get some of these more of these towers. Inhibitors down to the mid lane. There's an open inhibitor in the bot lane. And then in the top lane, there's still 2 more towers and an inhibitor, but it's still fine because he's got the pressure available to him.
Over the wall. Piecake Lord finally gets him. I'm telling you, dude, the QSS must come out.
I underestimated
the power of the QSS. He would have been dead to rights there if he didn't have that thing.
You're right. I was wrong. You were right. That's it, dude. But Now you're starting to see the more of the map rotations come out from this Team Infernal. And one thing I really like what they're doing here is they're putting the mid laner into a side lane. They're putting the top laner into a side lane, and they're putting the rest into the mid lane where they can really apply the wave pressure. Because once that wave pressure goes down, it's basically whoever is more pushed up either in the top lane or in the mid lane or in the bot lane. You go into that lane and you start to rotate. And I really, really like this style of play. And this is exactly how you play a split push comp. You just look for your opportunities and you capitalize on them.
Definitely true here. That QSS almost back up off of cooldown. It's going to help him for sure try to survive this Linsanity gank if it does come to that yet again. Looks like Team Infernal going to be moving towards this Infernal Drake. They pick that up extremely quickly before Team Cloud can even get into the area. Top side of the map, once again, the Piecake Lord putting that pressure down on that top lane inner turret, and the rest of the team members of Team Infernal moving towards the bottom side where they can put pressure on that open inhibitor. They may be looking for a hard engage here, as Piecake Lord does have the TP if he does want to regroup here, but the ultimate for Shen is also available, so they have to be very careful on who's the target that they do select.
Yeah, you see it's a very slow push coming in from
goodness, the amount of damage that comes out of Camille is insane. Flash away from the chains of corruption also opens up the rest of this team fight for Team Infernal. Shockwave does negative damage because it actually doesn't go to the enemy's position. It snapped back because Gragas got a little bit too far. Linsanity actually gets taken down with the last shot in the mid-air, and is finally able to get himself some kills. Top side of the map, Piecake Lord catches the people who are trying to get away, and that's going to be the game right there. Full ace coming out of Team Infernal against Team Cloud, and they're gonna just step in and walk through the base.
I wanted to see Piecake Lord there in the top lane because he definitely got that kill onto I believe it was League, but then you sent two more members up there. You sent the Varus and he died, but then you also sent Fnatic up there, and Piecake Lord was on very, very low HP, but then he still ended up dying at the end of the day. So very nicely played by Team Infernal at the end of the day.
Definitely true. And we've been seeing this from Team Infernal quite a lot.
Is that a follow? My favorite.
These guys love to just get in there and try to but thank you for the follow. These guys really are forcing this Piecake Lord split push play. These guys love to see this guy in the side lane, throwing down as much pressure as he can, really trying to be that side lane impact, and sometimes it seems detrimental. He died like, what, 3-4 times maybe down there to the Linsanity Malzahar roam, and that's one of the reasons why we see the Malzahar banned away from Linsanity. Not only does he know, the impact of that champion CC, but he's not
Yeah, you can also see that Piecake Lord, his job definitely paid off, because we saw in the first two games that it didn't really go too well for him. He was making a lot of these split push plays, but it just wasn't paying off. The rest of his team wasn't, I guess, coordinated enough to know how to deal with it. But then finally, they got their stuff together. They put the mid laner into a side lane, and they really started to rotate and mess with the enemy's mind. And this is exactly the type of play that they need to do if they have a carry top laner like this.
Definitely true, and I'm curious to see, I'm actually not sure what the item spike was that Piecake Lord had hit in the late game that allowed him to absolutely obliterate League like that in the 1v1 on the top side of the map, because if that's the case, if that's what the damage output was, there must have been a huge misstep that came out of League, because that damage was not occurring for the entirety of the game up until that point, and then it just busted wide open. If he was able to throw down that amount of damage onto Shen in any other point in the game, it would have been a very, very different match, because now the Stand United channels become a lot more risky. The Linsanity roam has to happen a lot more quickly, and if they don't get there in time, it becomes, a potential 2v1 if the kill on Shen goes down too quickly. So interested to see this guy play more games with this high pressure split push style, because it's definitely different than what we typically see in the pro scene, and I love it.
Yeah, me too. I love the aggressive top lane play, but I think we should get on to the next game.
Yeah, we will move on. Let me find our next match.
Here, let me see what